Hello, viewers, and welcome to yet another episode of Fleet Action Report. Today's episode is slightly different than our normal. We are discussing story and canon, and canons, as you'll see coming up. I'm Nikodas.
I'm Grebog still.
How was that for a introduction? Kind of
Pretty good.
far out there.
It's like we might have done this a few times before.
No way. I was thinking about that the other day, actually. Episode 37, right? Like, we are officially on our way to hitting our year mark, which, of course, since this is a weekly show, episode 52 would mark our first year anniversary. So we got a thing coming up, and it's coming up sooner rather than later.
That's like
We'll have to decide.
Interesting.
We'll have to decide what we're going to do for that. It's a little weird that it's been a year already.
You know, and I had this thing. I was like, I have an idea. I have a friend that really likes, my idea. So I wonder if I can get him involved. And look what happened.
I know, right?
And part of it, honestly, and part of it was because, like, the world's going crazy. I need a distraction. I bet my friend needs a distraction.
And it works. And it works really well most of the time when, we don't have technical difficulties and mute people randomly.
I could just mute you now and we'll be good. Oh, wait.
No, that's next episode. We got to have a repeat next episode. All right, guys. So this week in STO, we got a few things going on. We are in the midst of a red alert event that lasts until April 1st. These are the simple little run-throughs where you load up a very quick 5-man fight. Let me pull this menu up here so you can see what I'm talking about. So this is what you have. Red Alert, Borg, Tholian, Alachi, Nakuls, and Zenkethi. Zenkethi is the only one that has a fail criteria. And if you fail it, you don't get the daily progress. Most people just stick to the first two, Borg or Tholian. Those are the quickest and easiest ones to punch out. You get your daily done, you move on. 10 days of progress on this gets you one each of an experimental ship upgrade, an ultimate tech upgrade, and a specialization point. So fairly easy to do, well worth the effort. Get those daily progresses in. You've got plenty of time yet. You still have enough time to get all 10 if you haven't started yet. So try to get that done.
They are just handing out these experimental ship upgrade tokens like left and right.
Yeah, kind of all over the place.
I was like, not complaining. I mean, that's kind of nice for those that have lots of ships and like to switch between said ships or multiple captains and, yeah.
I might or might not resemble that remark. I'm going to plead the fifth.
Well, we do have someone in our AIE fleet that actually has maxed out the number of captains that you can have on a single account. So I'm sure they are also very appreciative of all of these upgrade tokens.
That is not me, by the way. I do not have that many captains.
Yeah.
I delete captains every once in a while. I am one of those people. I actually delete characters in this game. I've done it a few times. Gives me a reason to play through the storyline again. All right, our second this week in STO is we are in the midst of a 2-week bonus mark weekend. 2 weeks long.
2 weeks for
Don't
the weekend.
We wish? Don't we wish? This also ends on April 1st, and almost anything in game that rewards marks will get you a bonus, including the red alerts that I was just talking about. Usually those red alerts give you 30 marks. I've been getting 52, so take that as you will.
Great time to find some marks.
Since we were just talking about ships and who has bunches and bunches of ships, Mud's Market has a sale. Oh, that's the wrong menu. Go into the right menu here. So you want to go to the Z store to Mud's Market. It's got a new bundle called Out of This Wormhole Choice Pack. So you have an option here between 3 ships and then 3 additional options that can be selected multiple times. And then there's actually a 7th option in here that is a one-time thing if you pick it. So you can get the Maquis Raider, which is this one here, the Jem'hadar Strike Ship, which is this one here, and Ferengi Quark Marauder, which is this one here. All of those are tier 6, and you can play them at character creation or close to it. The other one-time option is the holographic DS9 Bridge Crew, which you can see here on this image. You get all those guys as holographic bridge officers. And then the ones you can pick multiple times, you have 9 experimental ship upgrade tokens, 300 Lobby, or 10 ultimate tech upgrades. And those you can, when you select the pack, you get to pick 3 items. The ships and the holograms, you cannot select more than once, but these other items you can. So if you just wanted the holograms and then like you wanted 18 experimental ship upgrade tokens, you can do that. Or if you just wanted 900 Lobby, you can do that. And it is 50% off until April 1st, which makes it 14,750 Zen or $147.50. So pick it up now before it jumps to full price.
I have a question. I haven't bought any. It does say account-wide unlock, right? So, like, the ships become account-wide unlocks, right?
That is correct. The ships and the holograms are account-wide unlocks, which is why you only need to pick them once, because once you've selected them, then any character on your account can claim them. So, there wouldn't be any point in selecting the same, ship twice, because you can already get it on all your characters, so it doesn't matter. The other 3 items are account-wide unlocks as well. You can trade them between characters using the in-game account bank. However, they're one-use items. So once you use like the ship upgrade token, it's gone. But you can bounce it between multiple characters, as we were just discussing. If you have, enough characters where you have maxed out the character limit, then it would be important to be able to move those around, which you can do in this case.
Well, and as we've said when we talked about the experimental ship upgrades, if you have a ship, unless it comes out of a lockbox or a prize pack, when you use it on any of the ships that are account-wide, essentially that ship is account-wide upgraded. So that is also something to know. I would assume that applies to these 3 ships as well. That would make sense.
Well, yeah, I would think so. I mean, that's the way it's supposed to work. Yeah. All right. So our primary target today. This is going to be an interesting episode because we don't really have any plans to make things go boom today. We're just going to do a lot of talking here. And if you are listening, please don't be afraid to talk up in chat. We would like to hear your opinions on these matters. And this is very much an opinion. The creators of STO, Cryptic Studios, have never explicitly stated if the game is considered canon or not. And that's probably by design. That way it gives, the showrunners, especially since we have current shows now, it gives the showrunners more freedom. They don't have to pay attention to the games. And that's usually the way it goes with most video games. Even the video games that have actual footage in it, such as Star Trek Borg, which is one that I've recently reminded myself of, I should say.
Reminded yourself of?
Yeah, well, I mean, you can't really find Star Trek Borg anymore. It's not even available on like Steam and whatnot, which I wish it was. It was a good game. Star Trek Borg was a live action story by video, kind of a choose your own adventure thing. So you would watch actual video footage with real actors, including John Delancey, reprising his role as Q. But at certain points in the story, you were allowed to make a choice. You could click on objects on your screen, so on and so forth. And what you selected would alter the outcome of the story. And it was a lot of fun. Now, I can't play that game these days unfortunately, but I was able to get on YouTube and rewatch like all the cutscenes, which was really cool. So, but even that is not considered canon anywhere else in Star Trek, although it's a fun game. So, and certainly that's the case with STO as well. However, STO tries very, very hard to pull in items and storylines from various shows, and therefore it does come into question: is STO canon? And that's kind of what we're talking about today. First and foremost, though, let's go into your personal story. So when you create a captain in this game, you are creating your personal story, right? You create a character. You can write a biography for your character if you want, which clearly I've done here for Katis. All that is your own. You can edit that right here. You hit edit record. You can write whatever in this box here for biography that you want. But you can create your own history, your own story. So the character is your own. Another thing that you can do is if you go to... Now, I haven't done this for a while. Okay. So right here. So if you pull up your if you pull up your mission journal and you go all the way to the right tab, there's a logs button. Then you can go to your captain's log right here. This gives you the option to create a new entry, or if you have one running already, a supplemental. When you click that new entry, you can title it, and then you can start writing whatever you want in here. Now, if I scroll down, I used to do this all the time. I got out of it a little bit. But if I scroll down far enough, I will show you one of my captain's logs. Here we go. So when you create it, it will give you the stardate. Now, this is the in-game stardate, and then it gives you the Earth date, which is the current time. So this log I wrote 10 years ago in April, but the stardate was 8886.34. And it's talking about the task force Hippocrates mission, which I ran through at that point in time. And these are my words. Now, you can do this with every mission in the game. You can do this periodically or not at all. This is an option, but it is another way you can customize your story. And it's I personally think it's kind of a fun thing to do. Although, like I said, I have not done it for a long time. What about you, Grebog? You ever write any star dates?
I have not. If those looking in the, I'm now the little window. You can see it when you promote people. One of your officers, you earn achievements or accolades. It will automatically create a log for you, so you can actually come back and look at various things. Like here, apparently, back in 2013, I hit tier 5 for the Romulan Republic. So, if you want to look up your history, and
it keeps these forever.
Yeah. Back in the good old days. Apparently, this captain was welcomed to Star Trek Online in 2011. I thought it'd been longer than that, but hey. I have not created my own logs before, so...
So, here's one that's interesting. On Stardate 88953.5, I created a log. Again, this is back in 2011. The mission was called A Light in the Dark, which no longer exists in the game. But I kind of did a play-by-play here in the form of a log. So even though the mission's not there, I can always come back and read this and remind myself of what happened in that mission. So, like I said, it's kind of a fun thing to do. But this mission was removed, and then eventually it was kind of replaced with a mission involving Tuvok. So new characters or new people to the game, they won't experience what I did when I did this write-up. But, it's like a trip through memory lane. Kind of a fun thing. All right, so again, that's your character backstory and your own captain logs. That's also a way to find out what the current stardate is. You can hit new entry, type something in here, and then when you save it, it will pop it up in your log with the current stardate. You can also delete these logs, so if you decide later on you don't want them, you can come in here and delete them. You don't have to, though, clearly. Okay, so that covers that. Along with your character, you can do theme builds. I've been reading up a lot on this, actually, on a couple different Facebook groups that I'm a part of. It seems theme building has kind of become a thing, if you want to call it that. So you've got the number chasers, right? In most games, you've got the people that want to be like the best of the best for DPS or the best of the best for damage mitigation. Those are the number crunchers. They're the ones that like to log their various achievements, that like to crunch the numbers either through third-party apps or just running the math themselves. And, then they come back later with bragging rights and say, hey, in this TFO, I did, 500k damage. Which can be fun, can be a big deal, but it kind of requires you to move away from these theme builds, because if a phaser is not the best weapon, is not going to give you the best DPS, then you're not going to use that. But I've seen more and more players trying to do these theme builds. So like a Federation captain is going to use phasers. A Dominion captain is going to use Polaron weapons. Klingons will use disruptors, Romulans and Borg will use plasma, because that's what we've seen them use in the shows, although Romulans have also used disruptors. So it's worth noting that with Romulans you can go disruptor or plasma and still be considered a theme or canon build. Let's see here.
Actually, while you keep talking, I'm going to pop up an image that is out there. It will
far out there.
Super far out there. The image essentially is to help you find if you're looking for specific colors for your phasers or, well, whatever weapons you are looking for. If you're looking for a specific color, there is a chart out there. If you just, I think I googled STO weapon color chart, it comes up as like one of the top things. You can look at it. It can help you do your theme builds if you want specific colors for weapons. So, here,
and that comes important if you want to do something a little off the wall. Like typically in what we consider the Prime universe, phasers are either blue or orange. However, in the Mirror universe, phasers are red or yellow. So you kind of get into that, again, that theme build. So if you wanted your captain to be from the Mirror universe and you want to do this type of theme build, then you'll need those, which are typically the agony phasers, those bright red or those bright yellow phasers. It can still do phaser damage, but you want the color to match, or the aesthetic. So like some of the Polaron beams look more wavy as opposed to a straight beam. But what we've always seen from the Dominion cruisers is a straight beam. So if you want to do a Dominion theme build, not necessarily any Polaron weapon will work. You want the right visual to go with that Polaron damage. And that chart can help you find what you're looking for.
And you can now see that chart you should be able to see it on the screen now. And it has pretty much everything. And they are pretty good at updating it. And yeah, so if you are looking for specific colors or themes or whatnot, great resource for you to find and have have a handy. I mean, it even talks to like pulse weapons and Delphic, and it's just there are so many different options.
There are, and then too with theme builds, you have to worry about not only the color of the weapon but the type of weapon. Another one would be if you wanted to do a theme build for the Kelvin universe. Their phasers were all pulse weapons, where it wasn't a solid straight beam; it was more like a machine gun. But there's options for that in too, which is where you get into, and forgive me for coining the phrase, but cannons. So cannons are a type of weapon in the game, and you can have cannon-themed cannons if you want to build that way. Another great example is the Defiant class ships. The Defiant used cannons in DS9, and if you wanted to follow that, then your ship in game would need to use cannons. So there again, we get cannons and cannon phaser weapons and cannon phaser cannons. How many times can I say cannon in one sentence?
Can't, but they're not the cannons that take a powder charge and a cannonball. So that's a whole nother cannon.
That's a whole different timeline. Although we did see those in Star Trek as well. I think it was during the wedding between Deanna Troi and Riker, wasn't it?
Probably.
Where I think somebody says remove plank instead of retract plank, and a certain Klingon officer gets dumped in the water.
Yeah.
Glad there were no sharks down there. Poor Worf. Okay. So let's get to the meat here. The in-game story and what is considered canon to STO, and then what does STO influence as far as the shows and whatnot. So what is canon to STO and what is STO canon to elsewhere? The first question I have written down in my notes is the in-game story. Is it canon? And the easiest thing I can say is consider it soft canon at best.
As I was going to say, ish? Canon-ish?
There are things that STO has influenced going forward. Some of the ship designs that we have seen in more recent shows, such as Star Trek Picard, are heavily influenced from STO. And then there are some ship designs that have straight up been taken out of STO and placed in the canon. A good example of that is the Odyssey class. We have seen, not on the show itself, but in a tie-in comic book to the Picard TV series, we have seen the Odyssey class, which actually was a fan design. They did a competition for designing the next Enterprise several years ago, and the Odyssey class was the design that won that, and then it was placed in game and now has been placed into the greater Star Trek canon. But also the Inquiry class starship that Captain Riker commanded in Star Trek Picard is heavily influenced by ships in STO, specifically the Arbiter, I believe is the name of that ship class. Or the Avenger. There we go. That's the one that influenced it, the Avenger class. And actually, the Inquiry is now in STO. It is a lockbox ship, and unfortunately, I do not have that one to show you guys. But STO, to reverse this around, STO is influenced by several of the shows out there. And as things have gone on, STO has changed to try and keep up with it. Originally, you could go to... not Drazana, I think it's K7. Hang on a second. Let me pull this up so I get my stats right here. Drazana Station. Yeah, K7. So you used to be able to go to K7 here, and sitting in the back room by a turbo lift was Icheb, which is a character from Star Trek Voyager. However, in Picard, Icheb, slight spoilers here, turn off the stream if you don't want to know. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Icheb dies in Picard, And after that death was shown on screen, the character of Icheb was removed from K7. So STO has tried to keep up with that. Now, there are instances where they have not updated, and a great example with that is 7 of 9. When 7 of 9 first shows up in STO, she is in her old Voyager outfit. Her character is aged a little bit, but she's still in her old costume. She still very much acts like the old 7 of 9. However, after the character shows up in Picard, there was an updated model of 7 of 9 introduced into the storyline, but that older version is still in the game. So you actually have 2 different versions of 7 of 9. And considering the storyline of STO only spans about 2 years, such a drastic change is a little unrealistic. Not to mention the story of STO takes place after Picard, in which case the former version of 7 of 9 is very much out of place. And yet she's hardwired into a couple of the missions, and it's difficult, if not impossible, for them to update that. So again, you kind of have to look at STO as a soft canon at best. Or, like a friend of mine says, it's in its own timeline where a bunch of different timelines converge, and that would kind of explain away any differences you see, like having 2 different 7 of 9s. Any thoughts on that, Grebog?
I mean, that's. I mean, also, this is a game, so as they're going to add more and more content, do shows, there are going to be inevitably changes that they've done with the shows that STO is either going to have to update, or it's just not going to. It just won't be quite as accurate. You know, like the whole 7 of 9 outfit and whatnot. I mean,
Well, and you run into that in a lot with the ships too. Like we have ships from TOS rubbing arms with ships from the 32nd century, which are literally 900 years apart in time. But in the game, because people want to fly those ships, they want the players to be happy. So stuff like that, you just have to accept as it's a video game. They're going to make their players happy. So if the players want to fly it, they're going to introduce it.
Well, and that's going to be given. Also, it's like you wouldn't be flying a Tholian ship if you're Federation. KDF or Federation. Typically, you're not going to fly an enemy ship unless it's some special infiltration mission. And
which we have in the game.
We do have those in the game, but you wouldn't be flying around constantly in an enemy ship or a. Now, as more of the races are part of this alliance, I'm more open to saying that, you know, it's not uncommon, or wouldn't be out of sight or out of line to say that, like, since we can now fly Klingon ships on Federation side or Federation ships on the Klingon side, I mean, you know, it wouldn't be far. I was like, why, you know, you could also fly Dominion, Romulan. You just have to do the unlocks for those too. But there are also other races that are part of the Alliance, so, you know, flying if they're part of the Alliance, I to me, like I said, it's not out of line to say that you'd be able to fly it.
Well, actually, that's a great point. Something in game that is unique to the game is this alliance, what they call the Khitomer Alliance. That has not shown up in any of the shows yet. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But the Khitomer Alliance is kind of a big deal for the in-game story. It is a peaceful collection of several different races that are sharing technology, sharing ships, sharing officers. So it's, you know, it's tied behind a lot of paywalls in the game. You have to use different resources to get these ships or bridge officers. But it is certainly there, and the option is there. And again, that has not been brought up in any shows yet. Although, timeline-wise, about the only show it could be discussed would be Discovery Season 3 and whatever comes next. STO takes place in the year 2409 to 2411, which is the early 25th century. Picard takes place about 20 years before that. Voyager, DS9, and TNG take place about 20 years before that. And then, TOS would be Discovery seasons 1 and 2, TOS about 80 years before that. So when they designed STO, it was put in 2409, so they had a lot of free reign, because at that point in time, no Star Trek show had even been close to that time frame. I mean, sure, we saw a couple things, like we saw the Enterprise J, the Universe class Enterprise J, which was a 25th century ship, or 27th, maybe that was 27th century ship. We've seen like the Wells class and whatnot from the 30th century. But those were like guest appearances, and any changes to the timeline that STO would do, you could explain away very easily, because those ships were time travelers, and time is fluid.
It's wibbly wobbly.
Now we have timey-wimey stuff.
Yeah.
But now we actually have a show that is active in the 32nd century, and that makes it harder for things to kind of mesh well with it. Which again, STO is in the 25th century. That show is in the 32nd. So you're still talking about a 700-year difference. So again, the Federation barely survives into that timeline. Maybe the Alliance just doesn't make it the next 700 years. But if any show was going to talk about the Khitomer Alliance, it would be Discovery Season 3, or perhaps some show in the future. I think a show about the Enterprise J would be kind of interesting. Something in that timeline.
Could be
show the Enterprise, show the Universe class on the big screen. Let's see. We've talked about the timeline. We talked about continuity. We talked about being canon. Let's talk about timeline influences. So STO is primarily influenced by what is considered the prime timeline, which is from Star Trek Enterprise through most of Discovery into the original series, Next Gen, DS9, Voyager, and Lower Decks. That is all considered the prime timeline, and that is where STO gets most of its influences. A lot of the storyline comes from those episodes, although they really like to pull from stories that were never fully explored. A great example of that is the alien parasites that showed up in one episode of The Next Generation, Season 1. They very nearly took out the Federation Council, and were working very heavily on just taking control of Starfleet entirely. Luckily, they were stopped by the crew of the Enterprise. But we never see those aliens again in any of the TV shows. STO has brought them back as allies of the Iconians. And they like to do that. They like to grab these stories that were never finished, kind of flush them out a little bit better, and put them in game. Now, whether or not those stories end up being canon, like officially canon, we won't know until we see something on screen. It's quite possible that some of these newer shows may revisit those alien parasites, but they just as easily may not. I mean, we just don't know at this point in time, which is why I say STO has to be considered a soft canon. Although personally, I think it would be really cool if they did grab stuff like that, like maybe Lower Decks would revisit those alien parasites and give them the same name that STO has. Or maybe at the end of the episode, they reference plans for the future that would coincide with, what we've seen in STO. Something like that would be really, really cool, and it gives some credence to the game. So stuff like that's really, really cool. Anything you want to add on to that portion of it before I start talking about Kelvin and Mirror and whatnot?
I honestly, watching a lot of Back to the Future somewhat recently, and I kind of think of the timelines a bit kind of like the whole Biff went back in time and change something, and then now you have technically two timelines. One's different, one's not, and I would probably venture to say that like STO is got its probably has its own timeline. It may be very close to another, so things will bleed over. But I would still say it's very close to, or it's got its own timeline per se.
Well, like I said, soft canon at best. Alternate timeline is certainly another way to explain the differences that we see in STO, or like Midnight Age says, he refers to it as its own reality, but how it brushes onto several of them, which is how we get so many influences. STO does have episodes that reference the Kelvin timeline. Well, there's one mission that references the Kelvin timeline. There are Kelvin timeline ships that you can get in game. There's 3 or 4 of them. Which bridge?
I'm on my ship, which is a legendary miracle worker light cruiser. Looks like one of the original, like one of the variants of the original series Enterprises. And here, I will invite you to my bridge.
That sounds like a plan.
But keep going.
Well, so they got one episode with the Kelvin. They've got a couple ships from the Kelvin timeline, so there are influences there. They also tie in the Kelvin timeline to. Oh wow, that's kind of a cool bridge. What ship is this?
It's the legendary miracle worker light cruiser, which looks very much like the TOS Enterprise.
Oh well, this is very different for a bridge then.
This is, like I said, I'm like going, this is not the bridge I expected. It came from a different timeline, I guess.
I guess that's really cool though. I like the different bridges. I like the specialist bridges that they put in the game. So in addition to the Prime timeline and the Kelvin timeline, there are heavy mirror universe, mirror timeline influences that you can buy mirror universe ships. A great example of that would be, let me pull this up. Maybe. You can buy the Dreadnought from the mirror universe in the Dreadnought, or in the mirror universe pack. It is a package deal, but the Dreadnought is kind of a cool ship. It's the 3 nacelled Enterprise D. And I hate how hard it is to find these things sometimes.
There is also just the Dreadnought that's not from the mirror, but yeah.
Well, that's true. But I was just talking about the mirror universe. There are episodes, there are missions in the game you can run that take you into the mirror universe. There are ships that you can get both out of lockboxes and out of the Zen store. Here it is, Mirror Universe Bundle. So you get the uniform, you can get the ISS prefix, you can get the Agony phaser torpedo, and the ship itself, which they're supposed to be more aggressive than their Prime Universe counterparts. They tend to have this little extra coloration on the hull to designate that they're from the mirror universe. But there it is. There's also a couple mirror ships, like I said, out of lockboxes and whatnot that you can pick up. So definitely mirror universe influences. And then there may be a few additional timeline influences elsewhere in the story as you're playing through it. But STO certainly has its own story as well that does not correlate to anything outside of it. And those stories are evolving and changing, and pieces are being added or removed as the game goes on. Another really good example of that is the story of the Klingon captain Bhavat. Originally, Bhavat was a kind of a rogue Klingon captain that wanted to ensure the war between the Federation and Klingon empires continued forever, and his plan was to use a planet killer um, to force the Federation people into an everlasting war. And through travel in time and this, that, and the other, you managed to stop Bhavat. Well, most of those missions were removed from the game or kind of rehashed into other things. And the story of Bhavat is no longer with us. I kind of wish it was, because you got to go and meet the Guardian of Forever and visit a couple other timelines. And it had to do with the Kuva Ma, which is a storyline from Voyager. And all that stuff's been removed. At some point in time, I hope it comes back. But at the moment, it is not here. But that's what I'm talking about. Again, when I say that STO has to be its soft canon, because it is a forever changing thing. Unlike movies and TV shows that once an episode has been aired, it's very difficult to go back and change things. Not impossible, but difficult. A game is easier for them to pop in and change things or remove content, and just kind of go from there. Any thoughts on that segment there, Grebog?
I mean, that's exactly, they can't. They can add. It's easier for them to add content, though. We have seen them update some content, and they do sometimes go through and update missions to, like, oh hey, somebody changed their outfit in one of the shows, so we are updating one of their outfit throughout the mission. And I can't remember who it was that was one of the people that they did that for. And I kind of, like, it threw me because I didn't realize they had done that already. And I'm like, oh hey, that's cool, they updated it. But
Well, Worf was one of them.
yeah, I was like, but unfortunately, it's not an easy process. They have to rework the mission. And sometimes that's a bigger task and process than, yeah. So it might take them a while to get some of it updated, but they do try, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, they do pretty good with it. Although there's a lot of people that are requesting the 32nd Century Federation uniforms, which they have not put in game yet. Although we just got our first 32nd Century ship a couple weeks ago, so they're probably on the pipeline somewhere.
Probably, eventually, someday. It might be part of an event, or it will be something out of a, like, you can purchase, maybe a mud market thing.
Or it might just be a freebie. Occasionally they do that, especially with uniforms. Like the uniform Katis here is wearing, which is the Khitomer Alliance uniform. That was a freebie they gave away. Which doesn't include the sash or the daggers he's wearing. That was just additives that I threw on there for looks. But the rest of that uniform was a freebie.
There.
And Grebog's now sporting the same thing.
I'm matching-ish.
You don't have the insignia, the comm badge. For shame.
I don't want to be contacted. I'm on vacation. I was told we had a 2-week weekend, and so I'm taking it.
Nice. A 2-week weekend. Well, that's what they said. All right, so we've discussed the character backgrounds, the in-game story, the timeline discussion. We talked about theme builds. Is there anything else you want to go over, Grebog? Or if anybody in chat has any questions, I'm good with that. Questions, comments, concerns? Don't go all quiet on me now.
Well, I was like, it'll take them some time to get, caught up with.
Oh yeah, I know. There's a delay. That's why I was talking to you.
So,
anything you want to add?
I do think Midnight Age is like time. Like, this is we are in the STO timeline. I think is a great way to look at it. One, I mean, you could also just say it's a game, and it really is. It's just a game. While they do try to keep as close to the canon as possible, there are always going to be little things here and there that won't be able to be explained away one way or the other. I mean, I struggled. Well, maybe not struggled. It was a thing for me. I'm like, clearly we don't care so much about canon when we are adding in the Janeway class. I'm not saying it shouldn't be added in. I was just it clearly is a step away from like staying on the canon mark. But
Well, then you have to get into like technology levels and why does it take them 800 years to, gain that technology? And yeah, it's a weird thing.
well, and that was my thought. I was like, so okay, if we have the Janeway class now, so ship technology stagnates for 800 years. That to me, I could see losing 150 years of ship development due to spoiler, the burn. Though I guess that's not much of a spoiler. I'm not explaining exactly what that is, but if you've watched Discovery, you know what the burn is. But I could see that causing 150 year stagnation in ship development. However, that still leaves you with at least 600 years of ship development stagnation.
It is possible, and again, Midnight Age and I were discussing this the other day. It is possible that like they just hit a plateau with starship technology. Maybe there's just a point where they've built the best ship that they can build, and they're starting to look at other weaponry or other forms of technology. And I said, well, that would explain like all the special consoles we get, the special weapons, and the experimental weapons, and that sort of stuff. Like they're looking for new ways to develop technology, and maybe just nothing latches on for the next 800 years. But again, that would be talking about STO or even Discovery kind of being its own thing.
I'm going to guess that at some point they're going to say STO is now in its own timeline. Or not STO. Discovery is in its own. When it jumped forward, while it was based on the Prime, people now in the past even, are now making different choices than they expected from when Discovery jumped forward. And it's now slightly veering off to, like, say, the left or whatever, and is now a parallel timeline.
That is certainly a possibility, but I could just as easily see the Discovery showrunners just not breach that topic again. I know they very, very much want Discovery to be part of the Prime timeline, to the point where they've gone out of their way to say so. Um, so I could see them just drop the discussion of timeline entirely. I mean, really, unless another show's going to jump that far in the future, it's kind of a moot point anyway.
Yeah.
But we could always end up with a show like about the Nog. What is it? The Rosenberg class USS Nog, or the Janeway class, the Voyager J. We could get shows about them, or we may see them in like lower decks or something like that, which would be kind of cool. Oh, look at you being all festive.
I'm looking at my outfits. This is what happens to me when I'm like, oh, hey, I'm standing here. What I want to do.
That was a very festive get up you had going. All right, so we are almost out of time for the show today. We've had a lot of talking and not a whole lot of action. Grebog, you want to go blow something up real quick?
Sure. Red alerts?
Yep, let's run a red alert. Now, I think we have to queue for these individually, don't we?
I think for in a team, we might be fine.
I will try it and see. I know in the past with the red alerts, each person had to queue on their own, but maybe they fixed it.
I can't queue for the red alerts right now, so...
Because you're in here with me. Okay, well, maybe they fixed it then. Deep breath. Let's do Tholians. Okay, guys, so this is the red alert event going on. We're going to run one of these for you so you can kind of see how it runs. Did you get that?
I did. See,
Okay,
I am in an Enterprise.
I am not.
Which is why that bridge really threw me for a loop.
Okay, I clicked the button. Why are we still here?
Because there's two of us, and it can't just slam us all in, you know. Yeah, I don't know.
There we go. All right, so unlike most TFOs, there is not a countdown on these. Once you are in system, you can instantly start flying around and join the action. And that's what we're going to do. I'm going to blow up some Tholians. And Borg, apparently.
If you don't... Well, it's like... The Borg are only in here at the beginning. If you are quick enough, you get to blow them up. Otherwise, the Tholians will destroy them as you are fighting. Essentially, you are jumping in between a Tholian Borg and I guess invasion. They both went after each other, and you are basically cleaning up the mess. AKA
And the Tholians win, because the Tholians are somewhat... Oh, that was really fast.
Yeah, that was fast.
Wow, that was like really fast. All right, well, I'll grab some fleet marks. So that one's very simple. You fly in, you blow up a bunch of Tholians, you get your marks, and you're done.
Yeah. Invite
Let
me
me
back to
reinvite.
group.
Yep. I mean, I expected it to be fast, but not that fast.
We got time for another.
Yeah, which one you want?
I don't care. I'm not sure I'm
All right,
interested in the Zenkethi one, but you know.
Yeah, let's run the Alachi here. Maybe we'll run the Alachi.
The queue time's been longer than that one last. Red alert.
No kidding. I might have to queue us back up for the Borg if it doesn't pop here in a minute. I don't want to just bore everybody and sit here twiddling my thumbs.
Oh, it should pop fairly quick.
Goes to show you, though, most people run the Borg or the Tholian.
Borg and Tholian are fairly quick ones, so yeah. If you're looking to get in and out, that's the fastest way.
All right, I'm going to queue us up for the Borg. I'm waiting for the clock to say 9:55, and then I'm going to queue us for the Borg. Oh, and there it popped. Okay, you got that, right?
I did get that.
I did not queue us for the Borg yet, so that's actually for the Alachi. There you go. Alrighty. You are in this one, unlike what I said about the Tholian one, this one does have a countdown for a briefing, but you can still start moving your ship around right away, get into position and whatnot. We have to disable the gate. This is an Iconian gateway that the Alachi are apparently using. And we're just going to walk over here, or fly over here, and take out some harvesters.
So you want to protect the science teams here. They, if you can keep their efficiency up, this goes faster. You can help by disabling, you know, clicking this, do your own disable of the gate. sometimes I just sit here at the end of this and just keep hitting it over and over and over and over again while everyone else blows everything up, because a lot of the time the people and the teams that you are with don't really need everybody, and so you can speed this up by just disabling the gate. I think you get 2% for every time you disable the gate.
Which again is one of the reasons that this isn't quite as popular as the Tholian or the Borg. Takes a little bit extra time and effort on the part of the players. Still, this isn't awful. And if you have, a team that blows stuff up good, you don't have to have too much of a delay.
It looks like actually it's 1% for every time you get a disabling space gateway. The reason that we were getting it looked like 2, is because we have another guy on the opposite side doing the exact same thing I am. So we're pushing this as fast as we can. We can get, apparently, if we get this fast enough, we get a 2.5 time bonus.
Me and the person in this scimitar up here are decimating the enemies. It's kind of fun.
See, I watched the first wave just get annihilated. That's why I'm just going to sit back here and just work on the gate then. Having 2 people, one on each side doing this, really helps and speeds things. I mean, we're at 55% and climbing fast.
Yeah, and we're getting bonuses. I'm good with bonuses. There's the enemies. If you guys are curious, the build I'm using is still the same one that I detailed in our build episode. It's a beam overload type build. So you can look up pretty much exactly what I'm using for this if you're curious, just by going to fleetactionreport.com, which will then show you the way to our YouTube channel, and in there you can look up our build episode.
We are almost done with disabling the gate.
I see that, 98%.
And it's done. Now we just defeat the Elachi battle group.
That won't work on me, boys and girls. They're trying to get me in a tractor beam. Oh, although shooting me will. Somewhat. And we're done.
I don't know that was that really, slow. Really I was like, you know, you got a group that seems to know what they're doing.
Still ran pretty good overall. Get the 2 pieces of my ship back, and then I'll leave. As I'm doing donuts in space. Alright, warping out. I really, really like this ship. This is the Tier 6 version of the Advanced Escort, and I still use the multi-vector assault mode. That's how I was splitting my ship into 3. However, there's a rumor going around, but here within the next couple months, or at least by the end of the year, we're going to get a Tier 6 Steam Runner, and that may very well become my next favorite ship. Oh, well, hello, Trauma Junkie. And Mama J. Or Mama Tay. I'm sorry, let me get the name right here. Mama Tay Hideaway and Trauma Junkie 23.
You would also know Mama Tay as Ix.
Ah. Alright, hi Ix. Alright guys, so that's going to do it for this episode of Fleet Action Report. As always, you are welcome to contact us at fleetactionreport.com, which has links to our email, our Facebook page, our YouTube channel. You You're welcome to hit us up any of those ways with questions, comments, or concerns. And suggestions. We are actually looking for good suggestions on content or new episodes that we can cover. So if you have any ideas, please share them with us. Next week,
even if it's something we've already covered and you think maybe you want to hear more in depth on something, feel free to put it up. I'm definitely, I was like, we're interested in helping you guys figure out what you need to know to learn more about the game and make it easier for you, you know.
You can also hit us up in game. I am very simply at Nikodas, and Grebog over there is at Real Grebog.
I had to be weird, you know.
Well, we did make these accounts 11 years ago now.
Something like that.
I mean, I'm not that old. All right, guys. Next week, Alien Creator Take 2. Alien Creator was one of the first episodes we ran, and we had some technical difficulties with it that we didn't know about until after the fact. So we are going to revisit that and kind of show you guys how to play with the Alien Creator. We'll go from there.
Yeah, maybe this time I won't mute you the entire time.
It would definitely make any surprises that I throw at the viewers work out better. All right, guys. As always, I'll see you out there.
Live long and prosper.